Many people don't know that Guangzhou recently released provincial data showing that in 2023, just in Guangzhou alone, nearly 10,000 companies were targeted by distant water fishing. It mostly involved officers from other regions coming to take away entrepreneurs, freezing or seizing various assets of their companies. But this kind of blatant demand is also a form of distant water fishing. Distant water fishing, offshore fishing, or deep sea fishing, these are all different English translations of the same thing. A criminal trend happening in China carried out by local CCP public security or other judicial agencies who carry out operations where their officers cross over regional or provincial borders to arrest individuals, seize, freeze, or transfer the assets of the individual or their private businesses to themselves or their agency. It's been called distant water fishing by Chinese citizens because it's like coastal fishermen going out to sea and bringing back a catch. But it's not free-swimming fish that are being caught. Welcome to China Insights. Here's one example. In Guangzhou, there was a company called eHealth, a nationally recognized specialized enterprise. This company achieved a revenue of 2.423 billion yuan in 2022 and in 2023 applied for a listing in Hong Kong. However, due to a 600,000 yuan financial dispute, it was targeted by a city in Henan for distant water fishing. Nearly 1,600 police officers were sent to Guangzhou to freeze 64 of the company's accounts and seize 758 million yuan in funds. The result? The company not only failed to go public, but is now on the verge of bankruptcy and liquidation. You might ask, what happened to the 758 million yuan that was seized? This matter cannot be discussed in detail. In an interview with Voice of America, academic lawyer and human rights activist Teng Biao said, "The phrase distant water fishing is somewhat misleading. It makes the issue sound too trivial. In reality, it is outright robbery by the government targeting private enterprises. They claim it's law enforcement, but it's essentially about grabbing money, bankrupting businesses and arresting entrepreneurs." On November 5th in Beijing, lawyer Jing Mingyue gave a warning to citizens by sharing a case of deep-sea fishing. The lawyer stated that her client in northeast China was approached by the police, who claimed the client had financial or business dealings with a criminal suspect. The police demanded that all funds related to the case be transferred to their account, warning that refusal to comply would result in the client being taken away. The lawyer remarked, "Deep-sea fishing used to involve cross-regional law enforcement, but now they are openly asking for money. Just refund the money and it'll all be fine. If you don't, you'll have to come with us today. This is what a client told me today." Some police officers from northeast China contacted him. They said they caught a suspect in a case. Now they're looking nationwide for people who have had business dealings with the suspect. Anyone who had financial transactions with them. It doesn't matter if it's cost or profit. Whatever money they transferred to you, just give it to us. Send it to this account and you'll be fine. If you don't, you'll have to come with us today. When I heard this, I thought, isn't this just a form of distant water fishing? Previously, I posted a video about distant water fishing. It mostly involved officers from other regions coming to take away entrepreneurs, freezing or seizing various assets of their companies. But this kind of blatant demand is also a form of distant water fishing, except the person hasn't been taken away. They're just openly demanding money. Everyone be careful. The Pearl River Delta region is known to have been particularly hard hit, with numerous local private businesses severely disrupted or even paralyzed by these profit-driven law enforcement actions from other provinces. A leaked internal report from the Guangdong Provincial Situation Research Center revealed that cities such as Shenzhen, Guangzhou, and Dongguan have become hotspots for distant water fishing. Taking Guangzhou as an example, since 2023, nearly 10,000 companies, including Pupu and eHealth, have been subjected to cross-provincial enforcement. Most of these companies are privately owned and the cases clearly exhibit profit-driven motives. eHealth Group, with annual sales exceeding 2.4 billion RMB, is one of the victimized enterprises. In June 2023, eHealth submitted an application for an IPO in Hong Kong. However, public security agencies from Jiazhuo and Shangqiu in Henan province accused the company of fraud involving 600,000 RMB. Over 1,600 police officers were deployed to Guangzhou to target the group's subsidiary companies in a distant water fishing operation. This resulted in eHealth's IPO plans being shelved and its business operations paralyzed. The practice of distant water fishing appears to be increasingly targeting ordinary individuals directly. On October 31st, a woman from Shaoxing, Zhejiang, posted a video holding her ID card and tearfully explaining that her husband, facing financial difficulties in his business, sold a luxury watch for 400,000 RMB to raise funds. However, after receiving the payment, his bank account was frozen. Police from Shiyan, Hubei claimed the funds were linked to telecom fraud and detained her husband at a local police station. She says, "My husband had been classified as a fugitive on the wanted list. Hearing this, I almost cried. We are honest people doing legitimate business. The money we earned was hard-earned. Why did this happen for no reason?" Political commentator Huao Pengxiao criticized distant water fishing. "It's essentially arresting people first and demanding ransom later, no different from mafia tactics. The worst victims are innocent individuals detained by external police forces or judicial agencies. These people have no recourse, no way to fight back." It's reported that revenues from fines and confiscations are handed over to local government budgets, and in return, governments redistribute funds and rewards based on contributions or local practices. Data shows that while fiscal revenues have declined in many regions in recent years, revenues from fines and confiscations have risen sharply. Some local governments have reportedly set revenue quotas for fines and tied them to budget allocations, fostering selective and profit-driven law enforcement. Cross-provincial actions have increasingly become a cash cow. Another commentator, Huang Shizang, said, "This constant exploitation is unsustainable. Those targeted will grow weaker and many will lose the will to invest or work. Overexploiting private enterprises and individuals is short-sighted. It's like drinking poison to quench thirst. This is disastrous for the economy." In 2021, Beijing issued the 7 provisions against profit-driven law enforcement to try and stop these practices without success. And recently, both the National Development and Reform Commission and state media have highlighted that distant water fishing threatens the survival of businesses. But if they are sincere in trying to stop it, it is not working. US-based economist Huang Dawei said, "The CCP uses local violent agencies to ensure regime security. Excessively suppressing these entities would hinder the central government's policy enforcement." A netizen posted on Reddit, "This has become more common over the past year. I know some lawyer friends and have also joined some groups for families of offenders. Detention centers across the country are now overcrowded, with most of the new detainees involved in distant water fishing. Setting up a company, selling some stuff online, dabbling in finance, even slightly skirting the edges of the law can all be classified as crimes. Every time, the local police station deploys their entire force, arresting over 100 people in one sweep. Even receptionists and cleaners aren't spared. Then the families are told to hire local lawyers. With a case involving over 100 people, there's the cost of legal fees, bail, and ultimately sentencing the boss, confiscating their assets and giving a boost to the local economy. Or put another way, extending the local government's lifeline for a while." In an interview on Radio Free Asia, financial commentator Cao Shenkun explained, "Local governments are financially strapped. Distant water fishing is just a rogue tactic. All governments have targets to meet, many are struggling to even pay wages, and the entire government apparatus is at risk of grinding to a halt. Law enforcement agencies are under pressure to generate revenue, and tax authorities are scrambling for money. Local businesses have already been heavily squeezed. CCP authorities are aware that this criminal activity is taking place, and they have been talking about it, but they have not taken any action to stop it. For example, on October 14th, a seminar in Beijing discussed measures to prevent and address profit-driven law enforcement. At a September meeting of the Politburo, the central government emphasized helping businesses overcome challenges. On October 8th, Zhang Shanjie, head of the National Development and Reform Commission, reiterated the need to resolutely eliminate unlawful cross-provincial enforcement and profit-driven practices. But none of that talk has stopped the crime or helped any of the victims. This Chinese citizen explains why. There's a news report about regulating the freezing of out-of-town bank cards. I've seen many legal bloggers say that the government is starting to crack down on distant water fishing. I think some views are overly optimistic. You have to understand the reason distant water fishing exists is because local governments are strapped for cash and need to increase their revenue sources to strengthen local finances. Why do local police cooperate with such financial measures? Because their operational budgets and salaries are funded by local finances, not by the Ministry of Public Security. Just like handling cases out of town, the Ministry of Public Security issued guidelines years ago stating that when handling cases out of town, they must seek local police assistance and cannot operate independently in other jurisdictions, but in practice, there are still cases where local police are not consulted. I've worked on such cases myself. Prosecutors and courts only see this as a procedural flaw, and it doesn't affect the trial of the case. Even if local assistance is sought, local police departments cannot stop out-of-town police from filing cases or detaining suspects. At most, they can deny them police vehicles or respond slower to requests, but they cannot intervene in the actual handling of the case. Even if local police are more assertive and refuse to let out-of-town police take people away, what happens when out-of-town police issue a nationwide warrant? Can local police stop them? Clearly they cannot. This doesn't just apply to the police, the same goes for prosecutors and courts. The Ministry of Justice might issue guidelines saying this is not allowed or that is not allowed, but at the local level many things cannot be effectively implemented. It's all the same logic. So don't be overly optimistic about cracking down on distant water fishing. What do you think it would take to stop distant water fishing in China? Let us know what you think in the comments below. And don't forget to like and subscribe for more China Insights.